Hi, my name is the Reverend Dr. Richard Groff. I live in Concord, North Carolina. I am 76 years old, and I have a cousin in Florida who's a compounding pharmacist named Sam Pratt, who asked me if I would share something of what I've been through since October of 2014. And so here goes. I thought I was in relatively good health for a man of 76 years old. Couldn't hit the golf ball quite as far as I used to. Didn't quite have the stamina that I used to. Didn't have the flexibility I used to. Wasn't as sharp in the brain as I used to be. But everything else was pretty good. Oh, I had high blood pressure, just a little bit elevated cholesterol. My blood sugar was a little bit elevated, but other than that, it was okay. And I was taking medication for all of those things prescribed by my doctor. In October of last year, 2014, I got sick. I was feeling like I had the flu. I was a little bit achy. I called my doctor. I said, I got a big weekend coming up. What can you do for me? And he prescribed some antibiotics, said there's a chance that I might have a bit of the flu, even though I'd had a flu shot. But I had been traveling around. I had gone down to the coast to play golf. I had worked in the yard a good bit. I was fatigued, and I might have the flu. So he prescribed the antibiotic. I took it. Didn't get any better. Called him back after a couple days of getting worse and said, what can we do? He said, we need to do some blood tests. We need to check you out a little bit more. He eventually sent me in to have an ultrasound. Checked out my blood work, said I had some um, elevation of inflammation, didn't know where that was coming from, possibly from my appendix. He suggested that if I hadn't done so, I might have my appendix out. And so I did that, and I didn't get any better. I mean, that was really a piece of cake, having your appendix out. I spent the night in the hospital, came home, but I kept getting worse. I was feeling weak. I just wasn't feeling good at all. And so he sent me for more tests. And then I began to see specialists. I saw a infectious disease doctor. I saw a rheumatologist. I saw 9 specialists in all. And they ran me through just about every test that I think medical science has come up with. Everything from x-rays to MRIs to a spinal tap to just everything. And they didn't find anything. Now that was good news, and yet it was bad news because I was sick. Over 3 weeks' time, I lost 26 pounds. I was weak as a kitten. I was white as a sheet. My wife and I both were sure that I was dying, and we didn't know why or what of. We began to make plans. We began to talk about where we were going to scatter the ashes, and we weren't just fooling around. We were serious. I began to think about what was I going to do with all of the affairs that I had to get in order because I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the strength to do it. I couldn't get out of a chair. I could hardly walk across a room. I was in very bad shape. I knew that I was dying. I prayed a lot. Death didn't scare me. The dying part did, because I had, through my ministry as a Lutheran pastor, seen a lot of people die, and that's the terrible part. Your faith can sustain you so far as your ultimate end, but it is the process in getting there that is scary. It affects you, it affects everybody around you, it affects your family. About Thanksgiving, as things continued to get worse, I was hungry, but I couldn't eat. I didn't have the energy to get food up to my mouth. I was feeling depressed. I was feeling just totally lost so far as physically and worldly went. We contacted our son who lives in California. He flew in. We contacted our daughter and her husband and her baby. They came up from Jacksonville, Florida. Little Kate was less than a year old, and I was thinking this was the last time I would have opportunity to hold her, and I so wanted to watch her at least get to school age. It was a terrible time. During this time, somehow Sam Pratt got wind of my condition, he got in touch with me. He said, "What's going on?" I told him as much as I knew, and he began to tell me a number of things to do. At that time, I was dealing with all of these doctors. I had been in the hospital 3 different times. Nothing was going well. I listened to Sam, but I was also going to be listening to my doctors, hopeful that they would find something, and some pill, some cure, some medicine that I might be able to take, because isn't that how it works? You get sick, you take medicine, you get well. You get sick, you take medicine, you get well. And if you don't know what to take, you listen to your television, and they tell you what to tell your doctor to give you to take that's going to make you well, and then they give you all the side effects. Well, sometime along in here, my rheumatologist said he thought I had giant cell arteritis. I asked him why he thought that, and he said because my SED count, that's your sediment of your blood, was very high. I said, how high? He said, the highest it goes is 140, and yours is above that. And I said, well, is that bad? And he said, a man your age should be between 15 and 20. And yours is over 140. Yeah, that's bad. And my infectious disease doctor, after deciding that nothing had bitten me, that I hadn't picked up anything out of the ground, that there wasn't anything that really had infected me to cause the inflammation that I was experiencing, she said that my liver enzymes were going crazy, and she didn't know why. In fact, they didn't know why anything that was happening to me was happening. And then my infectious disease doctor suggested that I get off of all the medications I was on. Well, I wasn't on that many. I was on blood pressure medicine. I was on something for my sugar. And I was on something for my cholesterol. It was this. This is Provastatin sodium. I've been taking one of these a day, doctor's orders, for probably 6, 7, 8 years. I got off all the medication. About Christmas time, I began to feel a little bit better. Not good, not a reversal at all, but I began to feel a little bit better. I could eat a little bit. The neighbors were great in bringing foods over, but most of what I ate were beans and greens, things like avocados, bananas, grapes, cherries. I ate an awful lot of fruit. I drank an awful lot of water. And I began to get stronger. Now, in my conversations with Sam, he suggested several things. One of the things he suggested was a probiotic. You see, I had suffered for quite some time with constipation. I thought that was another indication of getting older. It just is something that happened. He suggested the probiotics. He also suggested this GluPro EFA, essential fatty acid oils, that now I think is under the brand of Trio Life, and so I began to take these. He sent them to me, and then I was taking a vitamin mineral supplement that he also sent to me. Things started looking up. I have no doubt that those things were important, that they were helping me out. Oh, I must tell you also, my rheumatologist, who said he thought I might have this condition that was called giant cell arteritis, sent me to a surgeon. The surgeon was supposed to look me over and then was going to do a biopsy so they could study it. I asked my rheumatologist if this was really necessary, and he said it was. The giant cell arteritis was a dangerous thing. He said that you could go blind within 24 hours, and once that process started, it was irreversible. He put me on a heavy dose of prednisone right away. And I said, well, if you find that this is indeed what I have, then what do you do for it? He says, you'll be on prednisone for the rest of your life. I hate prednisone. I didn't know much about it. I did do some research online, and I found out it's something that I really didn't want any part of, and it turned out that it was exactly what I thought it was. I couldn't sleep. I had mood changes. I was mean as a wet hen all the time. I snapped at people. My wife, who was taking such good care of me, I was mean to her. I was angry. I was angry at myself. I was thinking and doing and feeling things that I didn't like. Well, The surgeon felt my head. He said, does that hurt? I said, no. He said, do you have any headaches? I said, no. He said, do your eyes bother you any at all? I said, no. And he said, well, other than that elevated SED, you don't have any symptoms of giant cell arteritis. So I decided not to do the biopsy because I didn't want anybody cutting on my head as low as the wrist might be. And I didn't want to go through all of that, and the results might even come back as a positive, negative, or whatever it is they call it, because it had been too long since the rheumatoid arthritis. The rheumatoid doctor said I had begun to show these problems, these symptoms, this elevated SED. So I didn't do that. But I started getting better. I tapered off of the prednisone. Couldn't take that anymore. But my infectious disease doctor, when she took me off of every medication that I had been on, that was really the turning point. I believe that. And I believe not taking those medications did more to get me to where I am today than anything. You see, I think this stuff is poison. It was going into my liver. My liver was saying, you have been sticking a pill of this stuff in me every day for 6, 7, 8 years, and I have been trying my best to get you well and keep you well, and I'm giving up. Forget it. Forget it. You are wonderfully made. Sam's told me this over and over again, how God has so wonderfully made us all, and I do believe that liver is one of the most wonderful factories that exists on this earth, because it takes things that we put into our bodies and it gets rid of them and it protects us. And I really think my liver was saying, don't you put this stuff in me anymore. And I wasn't, and I was getting better. And today my cholesterol is the same as it was when I was taking the statin and before I started taking the statin, which caused my doctor to prescribe the statin in the first place. My blood pressure is better than it's been in years. My blood sugar is fine. It hasn't changed from what it was when I got off medications. I'm feeling better than I have in the past 10, 12 years. I'm sharper than I have been in a long, long time. I have more energy and I have more enthusiasm for doing the one thing that is to me life itself, and that is preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. I get up every day. I take a cup of hot tea with the juice of half a lemon. I don't have constipation anymore. I take 2 of these. I take my probiotics. I eat my beans and my greens and my fruit, and every now and then a steak or a pizza or something else, but I cut back on sugar. I drink a lot of water, but I don't put any added sugar in anything. The fruits that I eat, the vegetables that I have, I get enough sugar. Our government, the big companies, the pop makers, all of these people may say you need this sugar, and if it makes you fat, use a sugar substitute. Well, that is poison too. They both are. And for any of us to get on that high, to get hooked with sugar, we are destroying ourselves, I believe, almost as surely as if we were using a drug that we'd find out on the street corner somewhere. Well, that's my story. I feel good, and I'm extremely thankful. I'm thankful to God that He has made me and my body the way it is. I'm thankful to this world because it gives me all the things that I need to sustain this body. I'm thankful to Sam for talking to me. We don't agree on everything, but I think we have found something when it comes to being proactive regarding your own health that we agree on. And I thank you for watching this video.